Hey, this is Professor Triplet, and in this video we are going to create this piece. And I'm going to make a claim that this is probably the second most challenging piece on this object, this one being the most challenging, and then this one being the second most, although I think this one's easier by far than the handle. So let's get going and let's see what we can do. I'm going to take this original one that I did here and just move it off to the side, and then I'm going to go ahead and just hide everything, and we'll need a side reference out like so. And I'm just going to make a cylinder to represent this piece. Now the cylinder that I just made is dead center, and that's the way we want it, but the picture is a little bit off. It's not the cylinder, or it's not the, we want to keep it in the center. So I'm just going to hold J and snap this. Looks like I have my snaps on already. Let's fix that, and let's say to 15, and then turn that off. There we go. Alright. One more time. J. There we go. You hold J, it'll snap to here. You can see it toggles this box on, so it'll snap when you're rotating. Alright, so how do we approach this? This is probably the most important lesson in this doing this object, is how do we approach doing an object like this. So let's go ahead and just turn our X-ray on. We'll go into a left view, and for right now I'll just move this down, and then I will move it over to the center of the reference, but eventually I'll be moving this back. So okay, I'm going to obviously make this bigger. Let's say 2.2. That's pretty close. Maybe a little bit smaller. 2.15. There we go. That looks pretty good. The height is unimportant right now, and I just want to get this right in the middle where it should be. Okay, so since this item that we're creating is symmetrical, you can tell that it's, if I was to split, you know, just let's say this quarter off, this object would fit within this quarter, and then you can mirror it this, you know, to the left and to the and down. What we want to do is, we don't want to build the whole thing. We want to make it symmetrical, but realistically, it's actually symmetrical even within itself, less than a quarter, let's put it that way. So if we look at this object, there is basically like this little divot here, and then it pops out, and then there's another little divot here, and then it pops out, and then a divot. So it's repeating itself twice, actually. So realistically, instead of doing it in a quarter, we can do it in an eighth. So what we have to do then is consider how many segments do we need to make this thing an eighth for each one of these little sections. And so what that's going to end up being is 32. So if I go ahead and just, you know, if you move this right to the center here, you could see we get, you know, 2 and then 4, and actually realistically all we need is really even less. We need you know, a 16th of this, because you can mirror that 16th over, but we'll work with an eighth because I think it's easier to envision creating this piece with an eighth of this, and then we'll actually end up deleting half of the eighth and then mirroring it over. So that's, when you're doing objects like this that repeat themselves, that's a very important it's a very important concept to understand, that you don't want to try to model this whole entire thing as one piece. You want to basically model its, you know, like one logical section, get it right, and then do like an array and repeat it. So that's where we're going. All right, so let's go ahead and just go into our perspective mode. Now I'm only going to want to work on this one face and basically do all my cuts and extrusions off the face, If I want to, I can make an extra cap in my subdivision like this, so I can actually end up getting some edge loops in here. And then let's go ahead and delete out these pieces here. All right, so back to our left view. And I'm just going to make some adjustments to this. So I'm going to scale this in. And so I'm looking at this inner part right here. I'm basically scaling it in until it's hitting that. Then I'm going to go ahead and hold Control. I'm going to drop another edge loop there, another edge loop there, another edge loop there. And you can kind of see where I'm going here. Now, it's always a good idea to check your other references too. So basically, we've got kind of this round hump, and then it does like this little, you know, divot, like a little valley, and then another round hump. Okay, so we're gonna, that's the shape that we're gonna be creating within this area right here. Let's look at the left view again, and then you can see there's like a little lifted area here, and we'll end up cutting the hole as kind of one of the last steps. It's not the last step, but the hole cut will be kind of an afterthought after we get this stuff figured out. So from this point here, we don't need all of these extra faces in here. So let's just go ahead and get rid of some of these. Let's get rid of that. And like I said, we only need an eighth of this. So there we go. We can do with that. All right. Now I want to make sure my pivot stays here in the center, because I am going to end up doing like a radial array. So it's going to help if my pivot's in the center. So let's just take a look and see where my pivot's at this point. Object mode. Okay, it's right where we want it to be, and that's fine. So I'm going to go ahead and just freeze my, I'll delete the history, freeze the transformations. So we're starting from a fresh area right now. So, okay, let's see. We've got like this little hump. We want to probably cut that in and then just shape that, and then we'll do some extrusions. All right, so to get that, let's see here. Probably want to add another edge loop here right in the middle. That's going to give us these verts to pull up. And then we'll go ahead and I'm going to add an edge loop here and an edge loop here. But these, I'm going to actually delete some of these off. So I'm going to go like this, and then just hit enter, and let's get rid of this and this. Okay, so it's going to leave us with an n-gon, but it's something that we can fix later. Okay, so now that we've basically got this shape cut out, and you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to actually get rid of the n-gon right now. So let's go ahead and we're going to cut right to the center. So we'll actually be making another, you know, this will still be an n-gon, but that's okay. We'll see. Okay, so now you can see right here that it rounded this out, and that's because I have edge flow on, and I'm going to want that on for right now. So make sure that when you're cutting this, turn the edge flow on. You'll have it rounded out, and I'm going to cut these for now over here, but I really don't need to, because I'm actually going to end up deleting this side off after I rotate this. Okay, so we've got all that cut, and we're going to go to our faces, and we're just going to grab these faces. Oops. No, that's strange. Oh, I'm on the multi. That's why. Okay, there we go. I was grabbing the edge. I don't like to use the multi that much. Sometimes I do. The multi-component mode. Okay, so from here, we're going to pull this up a little bit, and let's go ahead and look at our back view really quick so we can kind of see what we're doing. Oh, we're way over here, so that's not going to help us. So let's go back to our object mode, and let's just slide this out. So we're basically just even with where we need to go. And all right, so we pull it out a little bit, but we're gonna end up extruding the whole section out as well. So I don't want to pull it all the way out to the tip here, because then I'll just have to end up moving it back. So let's go back to our perspective mode, hit F on the keyboard, and then what we need to do is we need to grab these two edges, go back to the back, and pull this out a little bit like so, and now we'll just grab the middle vert here and pull this out a little bit. And you can go back to your back view if you want, but at this point it's not lining up exactly, so it might not matter. So anyway, let's look and see what we got here. So that's basically the simple shape that we're making here. Okay. Now again, we have an n-gon, but what we're going to do to get rid of the n-gon is we're going to end up just connecting here. So in fact, we can do that right now. So if we just turn on our multi-cut and click here and then hold shift, so you can click right in the middle, and you can see like you're getting that black dot there, and then just hit enter. And now because I have the edge flow on, hopefully it did it nicely with the edge flow, and now we've just got this round shape there. Now why am I not doing this side? Well, because I want this side and this side to be exactly the same, so I'm going to end up actually deleting this off. So we're basically working with just a 16th, and then I'm going to rotate this so I can work on it in that fashion. So let's go back to our left view. So you can see our rotation point is in the right spot, but what we need to know is how many how many segments do we need to rotate this. So you can do a little bit of math for that. So if you go ahead and say, okay, I have we use 32 segments, and we have 360 degrees, so divided by 32, it's going to give us 11.25, but then we want to make sure we can go in half increments from that, so divided by 2, so we have 5.625. So if we go into our rotate tool, go to relative, we can dial that in, 5.625. And so now when we rotate, and this is on relative, we can just snap it into half increments, and we know we can get to the point where this is straight up and down like so. That's where we want it, and we'll just take these and delete these out. So now we're just having to deal with this one side. Okay, so from here, if we go ahead and mirror this, we can, let's just go ahead and do a mirror, and we will do this in the Z direction and make it negative Z direction. Okay, you can see what the mirror is doing is it's taking this original orientation that I have, and it's mirroring it based on the original orientation. Now I can change that to world, and so we can say so Z direction, and now so what it's doing is it's going off of the world space. So for us to get that back, what we would have to do is actually, let's undo that, undo that, undo that. Okay, so we have to come back to our channel box and look how much we moved it in world space. So we moved it in the X. Now that doesn't seem like that's going to be correct. Let me look at this. Yeah, so okay, so since for some reason it got zeroed out in the Z, I'm not sure why, let's just go ahead and turn our grid on so we can see it, and then we'll just snap this over. I'm going to hold X on my keyboard and snap it to the center mark. So now when I go ahead and do this mirror, and if I turn this on world and make this in Z, now you can see it goes across. And then I can tell it to merge the vertices and then give it a smaller threshold for 001, and there we go. So now we're where we need to be. Now I could have done it with the original axis that I had. It wouldn't have mattered because I can rotate it back. That would have been fine, but I just like to kind of be able to visualize the piece as I'm, of what I'm trying to create, and I think that this helps me do that. So now that I've got this piece going like this, the next thing I need to do is I can go back to my left view, and I'm going to go ahead and just, let's just check my pivot, make sure it's in the right spot. I'm going to delete my history, and now I'm going to do a radial array and unify this object after I do the radial array. So Keep in mind with our rotation, we had 11.25 was our original, was the 2 times this. Okay, so because now that we've cut this up, we're going to need a different rotation. So let's go to our radial array. And actually, so now that I think about this, so it's a quarter circle at this point. So a quarter circle, that rotation would be 45 degrees. Okay, so you would just take the 11.25 was an eighth of a circle, or I should say a 16th of a circle. And then if you multiply that by 2, then you get 22.5, and then you multiply that by 2 and you get 45. So, okay, a little bit of math, not too much. Since this is 1/8 already, we just need 7 copies. Surprise, surprise, I already have my thing set up this way. So it's basically 45-degree rotation in the x-axis and then 7 copies. And we hit apply, and we should get this. So they're all matching perfectly, and we go to our object or perspective mode. We can see they're all nice and lined up, and that's exactly what we're looking for. Let's hide these for right now because we're going to select all of these. We're going to do a combine. Then we're going to grab all the verts and we'll do a merge. And just make sure that merge is at a pretty low threshold. I like to put it at 0.001 usually. Makes me feel safer. And that's the first part. So we're doing well. We're well on our way to getting this working. Looking at this, I think that these pieces here are going to need to come up just a little bit. I think they're a little bit too indented as compared to the reference. So I'm going to grab these really quick. And not a super easy way to do this. You can try your paint selection. Go like that, hit your paint selection, hold B on your keyboard. You can adjust the size, and then you can just hold shift and paint your selection too. That's another way to kind of select those fast. And I'm going to go ahead and just pull this up a little bit. Or, the other thing you do is just hit average verts and then turn up your iterations. Maybe hit G a few times to complete or to redo it. So you can see now I'm getting more of a curve. And so all I was concerned with is that when you're looking at this side reference here, let's look on this side, you can see like this is more like a, I don't know what you call it, like a sine wave type of curve. Maybe not, but not as intense as a sine wave. So that's basically what I was going for. So if I can just adjust that a little bit before I go further into modeling this, I think that'll be better. Okay, so now what we want to do is there is definitely more of a separation between this flat part. So we need to actually extrude this whole section out. So let's go ahead and go to our left view again. I'm going to hide that. Let's go to my polygons, and here, let's try the paint selection and see if this works good. Let me hit B on my keyboard. I'll expand this, and let's just see. So you can see if we want to select, in this circular fashion, let's make this even a little bit bigger. We can kind of try to do it like this. So it's pretty helpful. I mean, it's not the, I wouldn't say it's the best. Oops, I am hitting I'm in the wrong program. I'm trying to do hotkeys from a different program. My apologies. I use so many programs that sometimes they mishmash together. Okay, now we've got those selected. Let's just turn on our regular select now. But what I want to do is just extrude this. Just really simply extrude it. I'm going to click this little blue piece to get this in the middle, so it's going to go based on world space. At this point, I'm going to bring this back out and go to my back here, and then I'm just going to extrude this out so it's basically hitting the tip. And I'm going to go a little bit further just because I know that when I actually turn my smooth on, it'll smooth it down just a little bit. And I would say that I want to actually add a segment in there, but I'll do that later because that's easy enough to do with just an edge loop or a bevel or something like that. So that's where we're at now. Let's go ahead and just take a look at it and see what happens when we hit 3 on our keyboard. And that's looking pretty good. That's looking pretty dandy. All right. Yes, I said dandy. I know, I'm a dork. Okay, let's keep going. Let's hide this guy. Let's bring this out. Left view. All right, so now I'm gonna go ahead and move this back over here a little bit so I can get the shape that I want. Everything looks like it's lining up pretty well. I'm just gonna cut this middle part because the rest of this is actually pretty simple. So the middle part's gonna need to happen. The middle part is very similar to the back piece, the back handle, center part. So if we look at that, it's kind of a repeat of this, except for the corners aren't quite as sharp in this side piece. So we're basically just repeating the same. Oh goodness gracious, Maya, what are you doing? There we go. My hotbox was going crazy, or maybe I did something stupid. Okay, so we're just repeating the same kind of process. So it's basically just cutting, cut. And then, again, I don't have to, I'll cut through for right now, but I can just duplicate these at some point. So this, whatever happens up here doesn't matter because I'm going to just mirror these things. All right, so then what I want to do is come inside here and let's just delete all these. Delete that. So now we're getting that shape, and then I'll go ahead and go to my verts and target weld this to here. Okay, and then this vert right here, if I want to hold this corner a little tighter, I'm going to want to just move that vert a little bit closer. So I'm going to go ahead and just turn on my edge slide this up a little bit, and then we'll need a holding vert to come over here. So basically, I'm just going to, oops. Oh, yeah, I forgot the target weld does that. Do that one more time. Okay. If you have one selected, it wants to just take that one selected. So what we need is another holding edge. So remember, there's 3 points to a curve, and if you want to hold your bevels tight, then you have to have your 3 points closer. So that's the principle. So I have to see how am I going to solve that with all quads within here. So I know I'm going to need something there, and just like our 8-point circle, we can kind of come in like here. If anyone's, oops, so now see what I just did right there. I made a cut, but I still have this edge flow on, so we don't want that. Let's turn the edge flow off. I'm going to come in here, I'm going to cut this like so, cut to here and hit enter, and then I'm just going to make this cut here. Actually, let me hold shift, I'll get it in the center, enter, and then from here I can just take this and slide this up like so. And so now this corner should hold. Now remember, I'm going to delete everything else off and just mirror this. So now all we need to do is, let's do that actually. Let's delete everything else off. So we're going to kill all that stuff, kill that, and hit delete. And then from here, I'm going to use my offset edge loop tool so it works correctly. So I'm going to double click on there. Make sure it's set to, I said offset edge loop. I didn't mean that. I meant my insert edge loop. So equal distance from edge is what I want. And I'm going to just click in here and you can see it's going to grab that edge loop. But the reason why I want to use this one is because, you know, it keeps that equal distance and it's going to be better. And I'll grab this and just slide it over a little bit there, slide it over a little bit. So let's see there. That looks good. All right, we're looking good. Okay, now let's mirror this again because we are almost done. We're getting close. Let's go ahead and do that mirror. All right, so mirror. Oh, now I just realized I made a mistake. Okay. And I'm gonna have to fix this or it's gonna turn into a problem. if you remember, I rotated this, right? So now my humps on this model are in the wrong spot. And I kind of let this go so that I can show you that this can be fixed. All right. Now, remember, we have this middle object is going to be symmetrical, and this outer object is going to be symmetrical. So since everything's matching up properly, I can go ahead and just take this part right here. So since I didn't rotate this back yet, I'm going to go ahead and take this part, and I'm going to actually detach it. All right, so let's just go ahead and extract that off and hit W on the keyboard. You know what though, before I do this, let's actually move this back into the center so we don't get any problems with our pivot point, because it might mess with our pivot points. Let's go to our channel box. Let's zero that out, and we'll always know that our 0 point will be right there. And now I have to take this part off. And so let's extract it. Hit W, and now I'm going to take this part and I'm going to mirror it. So let me just select this. Now you can see my pivot point got thrown off. That's why I put this back to the middle, because in case I needed the grid, I can use the grid. But you could also just basically just change your pivot and snap it to that vert. And then of course this is on the center, so we only have to snap one. Okay, so now all I have to do now, let's delete the history. Let's mirror this. We'll mirror it in the Z direction first, negative. And then we'll do the same thing. We'll mirror it in the Y direction. So let's just redo that mirror. This time in the Y. There we go. Okay, so that looks good. And then this, what we have to do is we have to go back and rotate this. So let's go and see. You can see this through my pivot point off here too. So this is one of those things where having it in the center make my life a little bit easier. So snap it to that vert, and it should already be lined up correctly there. Okay, so now go back to our rotate tool, and we have our snaps on already. So we just have to line this up so it's properly lined up with the reference. So that being said, it should be like that. All right, I believe so. Let me grab these two things and double check my work here. For some reason, I'm doubting myself. Nope, that is right. Okay. It's just because it was offset from the picture, and for some reason it looked wrong to me. Okay, yeah, that's right. So now it's the same thing with the radial array. So we're just going to go back to the radial array, but now we just need 90-degree increments. So this is, I let myself do this just to show you that you can fix this. I think that was wrong. I want to bring out the... Okay, so we only want 4, or 3 actually, because we already have the right amount, and we will need these in, I believe, 90-degree increments. There we go. That's what we want. Say close. Select that. Make sure that's hidden. That should be right. And so you can see, if I grab all of these, see how they all line up? So basically that's just me, fixing my mistake. All right, so I got it all together, and now I'm going to go ahead and do a combine. And let's go to the vertices. We'll weld those at a low threshold, 0.001. Okay, so let's see what we got here. Is this looking right? It's looking pretty good. We're going to add some edge loops in. We've got to do an extrude on this piece in the middle here. So everything should be one piece now. So if I go ahead and hit 3 on my keyboard, everything should look pretty good. That does. It all looks pretty good. Okay, just double checking my work. You can see I already have this these polygons selected. So now I can just extrude these and just pull them up a little bit like so. There we go. And one thing I like to do is actually like to grab this inner edge. I'm going to actually extrude this edge out a little bit. So just go like so in the local Z. I'm doing this just because if I'm doing a render or something and it gets a certain angle, I don't want it to look like a dead stop there, like a computer generated cut. I want it to actually look like this object's real and it curls around there. So I'm just doing that. Now, if that's for render stuff, if you're doing this for games and you know that no one's going to ever see that back thing there, then I wouldn't worry about it too much. This works the same way right here. So basically, in this case, you probably want to bring the cylinder out and then go to your back view. And we can hide this at this point. Let's just hide that guy. That's my practice run. And so we still have that edge selected, and we can just go ahead and extrude that out. And then from our perspective view, I'm going to go ahead and just extrude this again too. So extrude, and you can do local Z if you want. Just bring it in just a little bit so we never have any problems with those corners. And then from here, we can do the bend, and then we can, we're almost finished. So although I would probably do the UVs before the bend. So let's go ahead and just do the UVs now. So grab the whole object, or I should say grab all the faces. Let's go into our UV mode. I'm going to hit save just because my spider senses are tingling. And let's go ahead and UV edit. There we go. And we don't really need the cylinder out anymore, but that's okay. Yeah, let me hide that cylinder. Let's do that. Okay, and then in this mode, I want it to be in the perspective. Okay, so all we have to do here is just do a planar map, super simple, and then just do an unfold, and it should come out pretty good. Look at that, no problems. So let's look at our shading, make sure that it's not too compressed. No, looks pretty good. I don't like what it did with the rotation, so me being the type of guy that I am, I would, rotate this back like that. And then just move it off for right now. Those UVs are done. That's probably the easiest UVs on this project so far. I don't know, maybe. I think there was a few other ones that were like that. Okay, so let's go back to our standard modeling mode. And we're almost there. We're almost there. I'm going to add a few edge loops in, just so we have some for bending. So I'm going to add one in like right in the center here. There. And I think that's fine. We probably won't need any more than that. We'll see. If I need more, I'll just undo it and do more. Okay, so let's go to the verts, and we'll go to the back view. Grab all the verts on the back here, because those are the ones we want to bend. Go back to our perspective. Now, we do not want these center ones. Look at this. So that's going to be a problem. So we're going to leave those alone. So just deselect these. Make sure you get all of them. There we go. So just the outer stuff. That should be fine. And then we'll need our body back out again. Let's turn off wireframe and shading. I'm sorry, not wireframe and shading. X-ray. We don't need X-ray on. In fact, we might want wireframe on shading on at this point. Okay. Still got to add some edge loops after I do the bend, but let's get the bend out of the way. Deform, nonlinear, bend, and I like to throw a little bend in there right away so I can see where this is going. And then, of course, so the axis it needs to rotate on would be the x-axis points this way. So that's the axis we need to rotate it, and we need to rotate 90 degrees. So like that. And you can see I bent it a little bit too much, but that's okay because we can just back it off. And let's see, I'm going to get it so it's just barely touching all the way around. There we go. That looks good. That looks pretty good. All right, so I'm going to just drop that tool and let's grab this object. Last thing, I'm going to go ahead and just, I'm going to add an edge loop here, like so, because to me this looks a little bit too etchy, if you will, or, you know, too many sharp edges. One thing you can do is soften the edge and see what it looks like with a softened edge. Let's turn off the wireframe unshaded for a second. That looks okay, but I don't like that edge loop I just added in. I actually want to like expand that a little bit, and I'm actually going to expand this one too. So I'm actually going to just average verts these so they kind of soften. And let me just do it a few times. G, like so. Make it look a little bit more organic. And then I'm just going to take this one right here and just scale that a tiny bit out. Like so. And maybe do this one too. Like so. Okay, so now I feel like we're getting a better curvature. So that looks pretty good, if you ask me. All right, so next thing, we just want to put in a few more edge loops to hold our tight edges, okay? So we need our edge loop there. Let me make sure I don't have that. Okay, I don't want edge flow on at this point. That'd be causing problems here. We're going to put an edge flow in here, inside. And then just to hold this corner tighter, I'm going to do one there too. And then the same thing inside here. So I'm going to do one there, there, and then inside here. There we go. So now if you've done this right, even if you don't have your smooth on, it should look pretty good. It should look pretty close to the shape you're looking for. And that's with like a unified, you know, smoothing and stuff like that. So let's go ahead and just check it. Turn on our smooth. That looks pretty good. You know, at this point, I may have softened these inner part, you know, these little divots a little bit too much, but that's okay. It's really easy to fix. All I'd have to do is grab these, you know, like this here. Let's grab this here. On, you know, all the way around the circle, and then just use like soft select, and then just kind of, you know, push it in a little bit, you know, just kind of bend it down a little bit if I wanted to get that a little softer. Or, you know, it may just be this one vert here that's kind of bothering me. Like, I feel like maybe that should be down more. So like if I went all the way around and grabbed this vert and just pulled it down a little bit, you can see how that looks a little bit nicer. So that would be something I'll do off camera though. I don't think that's important at this point. And you can see this is digging in a little bit right there, and I'm gonna just fudge this. So meaning I'm gonna kind of cheat it a little bit. At this point, I'm gonna just delete the history. I feel like I'm good. I know everything is solid, and let's just bring everything out. And so yeah, you can see here. Let's just pull that up. Now we're good, because that's where the handle goes in, and this thing actually like makes the handle click into place. That's really what it's for. The handle like scrapes. If you look at the texture, you can kind of see how there's like it looks like there's scrapies on there. And that's a technical term, scrapies. So anyway, obviously this would be mirrored over to the other side as well, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. So that's this tutorial. Almost 40 minutes, not too bad, but I hope the principles that were talked about in here about like finding repeating patterns and isolating those, I hope that you take that with you, and you can make some cool models. Just noticed something I missed. Might as well throw some extra edge loops in here, like one here and one there at least. So just throwing that in there, and then there probably should be one in here somewhere, but I think this might actually hold just fine. Yeah, that looks pretty good. No complaints anymore. We'll leave it like that. All right, thanks for watching, and happy modeling.